Welcome to the December 26th, 2018, Your Living Brand Live show. This is the last show of the year and the end of an era. This show is moving to iHeART Radio. We're going to be talking live every Wednesday, 10 o'clock in the morning. The show date and time doesn't change on k4hd.com. And you're going to be able to find me at YourLivingBrand.live. So don't worry, just keep the YourLivingBrand.live and you will be able to keep finding us. This show is all about you. It's about a customer. It's about how do you add value? How do you talk to people in a way that they're going to listen, they're going to understand, they're going to resonate with them, and they go, well, I'm going to do business with you. It's all about building influence through trust. It's about getting people to understand that you're not a commodity, that you're not one of many, that you're one of one, and you're valuable to them. Now, this show, we have a special guest. Chris Stanley has a company called IHEART. And what do? They're an insurance adjuster trainer. They train insurance adjusters how to be better at what they do. And it's not about being an insurance adjuster. It's about how do you communicate effectively. The lessons that he learned along the way, the value that he adds to his audience, and how he built a community. So sit back, enjoy the show, and I'll be back when we're done. Chris, thanks for making the time for me today. How you doing?
I'm doing good, Ben. Man, I'm so glad to be here. Been looking forward to it for a while now. I know you're a busy guy and super excited you slotted me in today.
Well, I'm just jealous that you live aboard. You
Yeah,
know, you live the life I dream about. You know, living aboard a sailboat is just, it's a different way to run your life, a different way to run your business. So I think that's really cool that you're able to, run a very successful business in a very unconventional way. I think that's really, really an amazing story. And, I wanted to make sure my customers understand that there's no one way for success. And, bringing you on board was a big, excuse the pun, bringing you on board, it's a great way of telling that story. So thanks for being here.
I appreciate it. It's always a little bit different pace when you live on a sailboat, not only in business, but in life in general. So a lot of the things that I've learned have correlated to the lifestyle that I'm living. So it's really, my wife and I tease that one day we'll write a book about business lessons learned from living aboard a sailboat.
Absolutely. Negotiating aboard a 38-foot sloop. There we go.
Yeah.
The art of negotiation at 100 miles from shore. Yeah, there you go.
It's fascinating. I can't even think back, far enough really to imagine people not being able to do this. Obviously, I'm younger. And so being 34, it's crazy to think that, 10 years ago, even this wasn't possible the way it is now.
Wasn't possible at all. I mean, technology wasn't there. Internet capability wasn't there. I mean, there was a million different reasons why running a business, that's that mobile and that, and that ability to basically pick up and move anywhere. It was a lot more difficult. And, and those are really cool things. So let's start off. This whole show is about how people add value. Everybody has their own audience. Everybody does things differently. Everybody's unique in their own way. Everybody creates value. So the question is, tell me about IHEART. What do you do? What was the inception point? What drove you to start this company? And where are you going?
All right. Well, what drove me to start this company was initially a failure. As in all great stories start with failure. It seems like I tried to create a company out of a good idea, right? It was a good idea. But in the end, I went a year, Ben, and you'll love this. I went a year trying to put together this cool product, technology, app-based product for local businesses. And in the end, I ended up shutting it down because I realized two things. One, I didn't like the mountain I was about to climb. If that was going to succeed, I didn't like where it was going.
Right.
So I invested $20,000, which isn't a ton, but for me, it was a lot.
Into a lot of money when you're a startup.
Yeah, to go, I don't really like where this is going. And then number two, when I looked back at why was this failing and so hard and toiling in place, I realized that I couldn't look at my customer and say how I added value, why they should buy my product. I knew what was cool about my product, the features, the benefits, but not that core heart of this is how it would change you, or this is how it would help you get more customers in the door.
Right.
And it took me 3 months removed to really look back and realize that.
Mm-hmm.
So on the contrary, IAPath started with me in misery over my loss, right? The
Right.
baby died. And it's like, I
This
don't know
is
what
your
I wanna
rebound
do.
company. Is this what you're
Yeah.
telling me? This is a
Yeah,
rebound
this
company?
was kind of the rebound
This is the
company.
rebound company.
This was me looking, going, okay, what can I actually do?
Yeah.
I think I know enough about this internet thing now after this failure to build a website, kind of a little bit about marketing, but what do I actually have a value right now? And I kept coming back to, I was an insurance adjuster, auto specifically. I looked at wrecked vehicles, and
Right.
people kept asking me, how do I get started in that? Friends and family, like, how do you get started? I'm like, go look it up on the internet. And they're like, there's nothing. I did. I spent last night looking. There's nothing. And I was like, you got to be kidding me. So I started looking, but there was nothing. And I said, I love podcasts. Let me just start a podcast on the topic, 5 minutes an episode, maybe do two a
Right.
week. Just see. No one's going to listen. Just see if I enjoy it. See if it goes anywhere. And if anybody ever would start listening. And that's the inception. So what we do at IAPath is help make it easier to be or become an independent adjuster.
Right.
Or appraiser. And IA is what we call IAPath, independent appraiser or independent adjuster. And we specify an auto, but that's the niche.
Right. So explain what that means just a little bit for people that are outside the insurance industry. And you don't have to go into depth, but it's understanding that there's the adjusters that work for corporations, but there's also the independents. So why would somebody bring an independent adjuster in?
Same reason you'd hire a graphic designer to do a project for you as an independent, as a freelancer. There's times when there's tasks or especially volume that are outside what staff would make sense for. So especially certain coverage areas, maybe you don't have enough claims in that area to sustain a $60,000 a year employee with benefits and everything.
Right.
So then you outsource for $100 a claim to an independent adjuster or an independent adjusting firm who finds those people and fills those voids and gaps and coverages, or for smaller insurance companies who don't have their own staff adjusters.
Okay, so what you're doing is you're working with the insurance companies to be able to be that customer service arm between the people that are filing the claim and also the insurance companies to make sure that everything's done properly.
Absolutely, and make sure that we give them a estimate on the front end. So when your car gets wrecked, we go out, look at it, write up an estimate. Hey, it looks like $5,000 worth of damage.
Right.
Send it to the insurance company. They're able to go ahead and process the check and everything from that point, kind of take it off our hands.
Right. But since most of my listeners are not looking to get into your business, and by the way, you have written the preeminent book about this. I mean, put up the book.
Yeah.
He has written the book. It says the Independent Adjusters Playbook. So you really dive into this, and you've written the book. You've got online courses. There's lots of different things. But let's get into. And he's got the T-shirt. The T-shirt's important. You got to be branded. This is an important thing. But for me, it's the lessons learned. Let's get into the lessons learned, because you said you went into this company, you did it for a year, you realized it was a mountain you didn't want to climb. You backed away from the mountain. Licked your wounds a little bit. Came out swinging. Let's find out, what are the things that have made you better? What are the things what are the little things that you've learned along the way that have made you better at what you do and enable you to help a very specific audience? Because your audience it's extremely specific.
Mm-hmm. What I found was one of the biggest lessons for me still, and I'm continually learning this, is my audience knows better than me what they need. I think I'm so smart at what they need, but typically they're sitting there yelling. Like, that book was born out of the questions I got week in and week out. What I was telling them wasn't what they wanted to hear, what they were looking for.
Mm-hmm.
They were asking a step before what I was teaching. And they were saying, how do I get started? I don't need to know how to look at a car. I need to know, I don't even know what the steps are to take.
Right.
And so finally, after a year and a half, I'm like, what's the number one question? The why campaign, they ask campaign, and it really go, wow, I'm missing the mark. What they're needing is a step before that. And so that was one of the biggest lessons to me. It's just quit thinking I know what I need to make, and start listening more to what they're telling me. Even if there's no financial makes sense to it at the moment, let's just fill the void that they're saying there is. Just like with my friends and family, there's nothing online about how to get started.
Right.
Okay. from the very beginning, it's what I was told, but it took me a year and a half to realize I still wasn't solving that original problem to its fullest extent.
Well, that's the problem with every business. Every business, you know what you know. And your assumption is everybody knows that. That's obvious. It's these three things at the very beginning are so rudimentary and so simple for me that everybody understands that. And that's not true. If that was true, none of us would be in business. None of us could charge anybody anything. The big thing I tell people is the thing that keeps me up at night are the things that I know that I don't know. Because there's millions of things out there that you just don't know. You don't even know where to start. You don't even know the right questions to ask. And the more we can sit there and be listening to those type of things and say, what are the questions that our customers are really asking for? What are the problems that they're really having? And how do we solve those? And you're right. You might sit there and go, oh, well, everybody knows that. But they don't. No, they don't. And the more we get beyond that, and the quicker we get beyond that as any corporation, the better off we are to be able to sit there and say, you know what, how do we go back to ground zero and help people, get off the mat and, teach them. It says, okay, you need to lift your neck before you can lift your shoulders, before you can rotate your hips, to be able to plant your feet before you can stand up. And it's sometimes it's getting people to that level, and moving them forward. So how do you go about doing that? Because when you're trying to communicate to your customers, because your customers are sitting there going, how do I start? How do you get them to understand you get that and you're the person that they should be going to help them along this journey?
First off, I think a lot of it was showing up consistently, being there as a listener constantly, not just showing up for one Q&A session online or something. It was every person that emailed, every person that LinkedIn messaged that was like asking questions. I'm like, sure, I give them the answer of what they actually asked, but I'm like, hey, let's schedule a call.
Nice.
And so then along with the podcast, I still get calls like, I've been listening to your podcast for a year and I'm so excited to finally get to talk to you and ask the questions I've been wanting to ask. I'm like, why did you wait a year? But that showing up consistently, I feel like gave them the comfort level to be vulnerable, to ask the questions that they wouldn't type on Facebook or wouldn't type on LinkedIn, because someone might chew them up and spit them out and say, you don't belong in this industry. You don't know enough already, so get out of here. So for me, it was just that constant showing up and saying, it's safe. Yeah. You can ask whatever you need, and I'm reachable. A lot of people in our industry, it's hard to reach.
Yeah.
It's web forms and this, but actually talking on the phone,
That's a novel thing. People actually pick up a phone and actually answer it. I mean,
this is insane.
A novel concept.
Is Zoom, in our class, we have classes and we do Zoom each week with our classes. So there's face-to-face interaction, and that was crazy to people. Like, you get to know me. Yeah. That's part of the job, is I got to know you're trustworthy. And so to me, that was the biggest, showing up consistently as a listener. What's your story? That's the very first question I always ask them.
Absolutely.
They're like, they think I want to talk about my stuff. And I'm like, what's your story? Because if I can understand your story and where you want to go, then we have a totally different conversation than if it's just like, oh, well, here's the book I made, or here's the course I created. It's like, no, where are you at? And actually caring about that and showing up repeatedly. That's the best way I found to engage them.
Well, I mean, that's the thing is that there's so many online courses where somebody pre-records a whole bunch of information, dumps it online, and forgets about it. They just, and they charge $295, $395, $1,000, whatever. And people go and they take these courses, but there's no engagement. There's no interaction. There's no way to ask questions. There's no way to talk to a professor. There's no way to sit there and say, is this a dumb question? I really don't understand this. And the people that can differentiate themselves by sitting there going, you know what? I'm here. Here I am, and I'm listening. And there is no such thing as a dumb question, because guess what? If you're thinking it, somebody else did. I had a professor that was like that in university. I'll never forget him. His attitude, if one or two of you don't understand, come up to my office afterwards. I'm more than happy to explain it to you. If the majority of you don't understand it, it means I'm dumb. It means I haven't explained it properly. This is my fault. You used that in your
book, didn't you? You told that story in your book, and I love that.
Absolutely.
Like, forget it, and wipe it off and start over.
And he did. And he did. He absolutely, he took 3 blackboards of information and wiped it out and started again, because
That's beautiful.
that's a lack of ego. That's sitting there and saying, you know what? Obviously, I'm not communicating properly. Obviously, I'm not effectively telling people what they need to know. I'm not doing my job properly. And it's not sitting there going, oh, these people are dumb. They don't get it. Oh, forget it. Leave. That's their problem. It's realizing that, you know what? We're here to teach, and we're here to help, and we're here to help make people's lives better. And the more we can engage with people, and the more we can listen, and the more we can sit there and say, how can I help you be better? The more those people turn around and talk to their friends and say, you know what? You got to go take Chris's courses, because Chris is amazing. Chris listens to us. He engages with us. His classes are interesting. I learn a lot. And oh, by the way, you got to buy his book. And once you've taken this course, you got to take this course as well. And that's how businesses grow. And it doesn't matter what you sell. It's a matter of sitting there going, the more you can get people to be champions of your brand for you, the less marketing dollars you need to spend to be able to, bring in new customers, because they'll do it for you.
I tend to find that I've learned the most, and I read in a book recently, that basically you retain 90% of the information you learn when you teach it. But if you're just watching a video, it's something around 50%. I forget the exact stats. And what I found is when the students ask the questions and I don't know the answer, they're the ones driving my learning to then be able to drive my teaching.
Absolutely.
So what I taught in the beginning was nowhere near to what it is now, only because of them.
Mm-hmm.
And it's reversed, because we think, oh, we're the teacher, we know it all. But like your teacher, oh, I'm a stupid teacher, let me start over. Obviously I'm a bad communicator. And it's amazing that how your customers can literally shape your product and shape your brand, tell you what it wants and how they're willing to pay you money to help them if you just listen. And it's so hard, but it's simple.
Customers are willing to listen to the comment today, I don't know, but let me find out for you. Mm-hmm. Nobody today knows everything. There is so much information that is coming at us from 10,000 different directions all at once. It's impossible to know everything. Yeah. But it's the people that say, you know what? I'm not sure. I really don't know that. Let me go find out for you. Let me find the answer and let me get back to you. And those are the people that customers, respect. And those are the people that customers want to deal with. Because if you're just sit there and try to make up an answer or just blow the answer off as unimportant, they'll go looking for the answer somewhere else.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So, Ben, maybe Mr. Brand Marketing Expert. So,
you're far too kind, but okay.
Oh, okay. We won't. Yeah. We'll leave it at that. Brand marketing expert. But as a business owner, I struggle. This is like on the couch for you. You can just lay me out here.
Yeah.
And so I have a brand, right? And I am developing it in a certain way. For me, in a specific instance, the superhero aspect. If you've seen anything of mine, tends to have a superhero flair, superhero kind of logo.
Sure.
I feel like adjusters are superheroes. How do you tell, or how do you start slowly testing without, jerking the wheel, how your audience is responding to that kind of image? Do you know what I'm saying? Like you have your little guys in the background. You've got your image, you know what it is, but you might find out 10 years down the road, someone thought those were all yin yang signs and they didn't like it. And so your book didn't sell, whatever the case is.
Yeah.
That's kind of, in my mind, like that's where I think brand is so hard.
Yeah.
It's like me as a brand, I'm comfortable. Me as the, not so much colors, but as the persona that sits online when they're not talking to me. Yeah. That's what scares me, the what I don't know, right?
I think what you do, and this is a great question. I love that you asked me a question, because no one ever asked me a question here. Is that, and thank you for doing that. It's really bringing certain customers in within the cone of silence. It really is. It's having a trusted advisory group of your customers. Basically said, when I was going through a rebranding process, I had a half dozen customers that I brought along the journey with me. And I said, look, I'm rebranding and this is why. And I tested phraseology with them. I tested colors with them. I tested logo with them. I tested, ideas with them. And we hashed things out. And these were customers that I trusted and trusted me. And I said, look, I'm coming to you because I want to make this better for everybody. And when you do that, when you have a group of people that you can sit there and say behind closed doors, this is what we're trying to do. Am I on the mark? Are you going to get it perfect? No. There's no such thing as a perfect brand out there. There's no such thing as a perfect logo. There's no such thing.
Coca-Cola might have got it.
Coca-Cola's close. They really are. But think of the hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars that they spend every single year supporting that brand. Visa's the same way. Pepsi's the same way. But you know what? Coca-Cola is one of the few brands out there that doesn't tweak it. It is what, that Coca-Cola script logo is the Coca-Cola script logo. But they've played with things with New Coke. They played with things with the Coke. They have played with things over the years. But the majority of the brand logo is consistent. And the reason it is because it's the trust factor. That people have that thing. They think of Coca-Cola and they think of Christmas, and they think of the warm feelings of family. And that's what Coca-Cola is all about. They own Christmas. And it's a beautiful thing. But most brands do not have the capital. They don't have the insight. They don't have the strategic ability to create that. The majority of companies out there are under 100 people. They're probably under 50 people. The majority around the world, most companies are under 50 people. And when you're under 50 people, you're nimble and you're scrappy. And the best thing you can do is test. Because the more we test, the more we sit there and say, you know what, let's take this out to a limited number of people and test one thing. Don't test 12 things at once, test one thing. And once you get that, then you go to the next thing and test that. And when you go to that, you go to the next thing and test that. But once you can do it there, you can have a pretty good idea. Either people hate it and the people love it, and why. The key thing is, I don't care if somebody likes it or hates it. I want to know why they hate it or love it. What emotionally, what does this do to you? How do you feel about this? What does it resonate with you? Does it bring it back to what you truly believe is Ben Baker in your brand marketing, or IA Path, or whoever? And I think that's where our value is. Our value is being able to test, because especially in the digital age today, you're not printing 100,000 of something and then being stuck with it out on the road. Now you make a change to your website. If nobody responds to it, you make another small change. And then you tweak it, and you change a word, or you change a phrase, or you change a color, and you look at it and you sit there and say, oh, they like this, but they don't like this. They track here, they don't track here. They're reading this way through my website. They're not reading this way through my website. Oh, I need to take this and move it over here. These are little things that you make the changes. But that's where our world is. Our world is in a place where we're all going to get better when we ask our customers, when we talk to our customers, when we bring our customers along for the journey, when we bring our employees along for the journey. And, and we don't have this cone of silence type thing as I'm going to do this all by myself in this vacuum with no other sounding board whatsoever. And then I'm going to come out to the world. Because if you do that, more than likely you're going to get it wrong. You need to have people inside the cone of silence that have a different viewpoint and can tell you you're wrong and this is why, and I don't like this because of this, and you're not they're not worried about getting fired because they say it. And that's the important thing when you're branding is it's that we're in a world of testing, and but once you get it, once you build that brand, once it's solid, don't play with it. Yeah. It may get
IA is not going anywhere, by the way. The IA is sticking.
The IA, I love the IA. I love the IA.
Sticking. So that's like already people kind of resonate with that. Like, oh, when they graduate, they get this on our map on the website. So now it's like, oh, wow, I've been upgraded from a dot to this, or they get their certificate and got that seal of approval on it. So that's not going anywhere. But I'm definitely, like you said, constantly testing little things here and there. But yeah, I love that. I'm going to definitely be testing some things, and I'll let you know how they go.
I love it. I love that you're going to test the things and come back to me. So let's get, and we got a little bit off track, but let's finish this off. Let's finish this off because I love where this thing went because it went in a completely different direction I wanted, but I think it's really valuable stuff. My question is, let's bring it back to you.
Okay.
When you're finished your training, when you're dealing with your customers, when you leave the room and you walk away, what do you want people to think about you and your brand when you're not in the room?
That we're there if they need us, so that they're not on this alone, that they can always come back, that it's more than just me, it's more than just a logo, that there's a community and there's people who align with the community and what we're doing to want to support each other. Because to me, just like, it's competitive. It's in our industry, it feels very competitive. As a freelancer, you feel like you're going head to head against each other, but we kind of paint a different picture that, no, we're kind of in this together, because there's a lot of adjusters in every city, and there could be even more independent adjusters than there already are. And so the people that tend to come into our training, by the end, they're obviously already of that culture in mind, or they leave. I mean, if they're not into that, they're probably never going to come in the first place. So when I'm not in the room, when I pass not in the room, it's that if they have a question, if they're concerned or they're confused, that they know where to come back to. That it's not just they leave and that's it.
And that's huge. It's you're building a community, and you're building that that influence to trust, and that's a phrase that I'm loving more and more. Is that influence through trust, because I think that's how we build relationships, and that's how we build great businesses. So thanks a lot, Chris. It says people find you at iapath.com, right?
iapath.com. You'll find lots of stuff to go lots of other places, but that is the hub for what we're doing. And I appreciate you, Ben, for bringing me on.
You know what? Thanks for being on the show. Hang out for a second. I'm just going to say goodbye to everybody, and I'll be right back. I want to thank you all for listening to the last episode of the year. This has been an amazing ride. We are over 80 episodes of the Your Living Brand Live show, and starting on January 2nd, next Wednesday, we are going to be moving to iHeART Radio through k4hd.com. It is going to be live. You're going to be able to find me on www.yourlivingbrand.live. The show site does not change. The audience gets much bigger, and we're going to be able to offer you an hour-long, actually 50-minute long radio show that talks to you about how do you deliver a great and wonderful brand. So sit back, listen to the show. My name is Ben Baker. My company is Your Brand Marketing, and we look forward to seeing you. See you in 2019. See you on iHeartRadio, and thank you for being part of the journey.